Okay, so humanity has been multiplying across the earth, which sounds great, except it is about to go very wrong. The chapter opens with something absolutely wild. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Wait, hold up. The sons of God? This is one of the most debated passages in Genesis. Who are these sons of God? Theory 1. Fallen angels. Some scholars believe these were angelic beings who rebelled and took human women as wives. This would explain the weird offspring mentioned next, the Nephilim, and it lines up with other ancient texts. The problem: angels typically are not described as being able to reproduce. Theory 2. The godly line of Seth. These were descendants of Seth, the faithful line from chapter 5, who intermarried with descendants of Cain, the corrupt line. So sons of God means godly men, and daughters of humans means ungodly women. The sin is believers marrying unbelievers. Theory 3. Powerful rulers or tyrants. Some ancient cultures called kings and rulers sons of God or sons of the gods. These could be tyrannical leaders taking multiple wives. Whatever is happening, God is not pleased. He says, "My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. This could mean either humanity's lifespan is now capped at 120 years, or humanity has 120 years until judgment, the flood. Probably the second one, since Noah takes about 120 years to build the ark. Then we get this haunting line: the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. The Nephilim giants, mighty warriors. These are not normal humans. They show up again later in the Bible when Israel is scouting the promised land. But here, they are part of what is going wrong with creation. Then comes verse 5, and it is devastating. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. Every inclination, only evil, all the time. Humanity has become completely corrupted. Violence, wickedness, evil imagination, constantly. Verse 6, the Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. God regrets creating humanity. His heart is grieved. This is not divine indifference. God is emotionally affected by what his creation has become. So God says, "I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them." He is about to hit the reset button on creation. But then, verse 8, but Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. One man, one family. In an entire world of corruption, there is one righteous man. Verse 9, Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. That phrase, walked faithfully with God, is the same thing said about Enoch back in chapter 5, Noah's great-grandfather. It runs in the family. Noah has 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. God tells Noah, "I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark." An ark, not a boat, an ark. The word means a chest or box. This is not designed for navigation. It is designed to float and survive. God gives Noah very specific instructions. Make it of cypress wood, coated with pitch inside and out, waterproofing. 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, 45 feet high. That is massive, about 1.5 football fields long. 3 decks, lower, middle, and upper. A roof with an 18-inch opening below it for ventilation. A door in the side, rooms throughout, Then God gives the mission. You are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, and of every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and store it away as food for you and for them. And here is the key verse. Noah did everything just as God commanded him. No questions, no objections, no, but God. People are going to think I am crazy. Just obedience. Keep in mind, it has never rained before. Up to this point, the earth was watered by mist and streams. Noah is building a massive boat for a flood that no one has ever seen or can even imagine, probably miles from any significant body of water, and it takes him about 120 years to complete. Genesis 7, the flood that changed everything. Okay, so the ark is built. 120 years of construction. Now it is time. God tells Noah, go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation. Notice God says, in this generation, not of this generation. Noah is righteous despite living in a completely corrupt world. He is not a product of his environment. Then God gives more detailed instructions about the animals. Take with you 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal, a male and its mate, and also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth. Wait, 7 pairs of clean animals, but only 1 pair of unclean? Why the difference? Clean animals are ones that will later be used for sacrifices and food under Levitical law. Even though that law has not been given yet, God already has categories. Noah will need extras for sacrifices after the flood, and humanity will eventually need them for food. Unclean animals just need to survive, so 1 pair is enough. God continues, 7 days from now, I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will wipe from the face of the earth every living creature I have made. 7 days. That is the final countdown, the final warning. In verse 5, and Noah did all that the Lord commanded him. Again, complete obedience. Noah is 600 years old when the flood waters come 600. So Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives, 8 people total, enter the ark. Then the animals come, pairs of unclean animals, 7 pairs of clean animals, birds, everything that moves on the ground. They all come to Noah. He does not have to chase them down. God brings them. Then verse 16, and this detail matters. The animals going in were male and female of every living thing, as God had commanded Noah. Then the Lord shut him in. God himself closes the door from the outside. Noah cannot open it. No one else can open it. When God shuts that door, the time for entering is over. That imagery is going to come back in the New Testament when Jesus talks about readiness and closed doors. Then it happens. On that day, all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened. It is not just rain. The underground waters explode upward, and the waters above collapse downward. Creation is literally going back to the chaos and waters of Genesis 1 before God separated them. The rain falls for 40 days and 40 nights. The waters rise and lift the ark. It is floating now, carried by the flood. They rose greatly on the earth, and all the high mountains under the entire heavens were covered. The waters rose and covered the mountains to a depth of more than 15 cubits, about 23 feet. Every mountain, under the entire heavens covered. Then comes the devastation. Every living thing that moved on land perished, birds, livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that swarm over the earth, and all mankind. Everything on dry land that had the breath of life in its nostrils died. Every living thing on the face of the earth was wiped out. people and animals and the creatures that move along the ground, and the birds were wiped from the earth. Total extinction, complete annihilation, everything with breath in its nostrils gone. Only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark. 8 humans, the animals in the ark. That is it. That is all that remains of God's creation. And here is the final verse of chapter 7. The waters flooded the earth for 150 days. Not 40, 150. 40 days of rain, yes, but the water stayed high, covering everything for 5 months. Inside that ark, floating on a global ocean that used to be the earth, Noah and his family wait no land in sight. No other humans, just water for months. That is Genesis 7. Judgment has come. The world as they knew it is gone. Genesis 8. The world starts over. Okay, so the earth is completely underwater. Noah, his family, and all the animals have been floating in this massive ark for 5 months. The rain stopped after 40 days, but the water is still covering everything, even the mountains. Then verse 1, and these 4 words matter so much. But God remembered Noah. Not that he forgot. Obviously, God does not forget. But this phrase means God is now acting on Noah's behalf. His attention turns to mercy and restoration. And all the wild animals and the livestock that were with him in the ark, and he sent a wind over the earth, and the waters receded. God sends a wind, just like in Genesis 1, when the Spirit of God, the word can also mean wind or breath, hovered over the waters. Creation is being recreated. The underground springs and the floodgates of heaven are closed. The rain stops completely. The water starts going down, slowly. At the end of the 150 days, the water had gone down, and on the 17th day of the 7th month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. The ark lands 5 months in. They finally touch ground, but they still cannot see land because the mountains are still covered. The waters continue to recede until the 10th month, and on the first day of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains became visible. So now it has been 7 months since the flood started, and they can finally see mountain peaks. But Noah does not just throw open the door and run out. He waits. He is patient. He tests. After 40 more days, Noah opens a window and sends out a raven. The raven kept flying back and forth until the water had dried up from the earth. Ravens are scavengers. It probably found floating carcasses to land on and eat. It did not come back because it did not need to. Then Noah sends out a dove. But the dove could find nowhere to perch because there was water over all the surface of the earth. So it returned to Noah in the ark. He reached out his hand and took the dove and brought it back to himself in the ark. The dove needs dry land and vegetation. There is none yet, so it comes back. Noah waits 7 more days. He sends the dove out again. When the dove returned to him in the evening, there in its beak was a freshly plucked olive leaf. An olive leaf, fresh. That means plants are growing again. Life is returning to the earth. There is hope. Then Noah knew that the water had receded from the earth. But he still does not leave the ark. He waits another 7 days. He sends the dove out a 3rd time. When he sent it out, it did not return to him again. The dove found a place to live. The earth is ready. By the 1st day of the 1st month of Noah's 601st year, the water had dried up from the earth. Noah then removed the covering from the ark and saw that the surface of the ground was dry. It has been over a year, more than a year in that ark with all those animals. Can you even imagine? But even now, Noah waits. He does not leave until God tells him to. Verse 15. Then God said to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you so they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful and increase in number on it." God releases them. The same command he gave in Genesis 1, be fruitful and multiply, he gives again. Fresh start, new beginning. So Noah came out, together with his sons and his wife and his sons' wives, All the animals and all the creatures that move along the ground and all the birds, everything that moves on land, came out of the ark, one kind after another. They are free. The earth is theirs again. And the first thing Noah does? Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and taking some of all the clean animals and clean birds, he sacrificed burnt offerings on it. Worship, gratitude, sacrifice. This is why God told him to bring 7 pairs of clean animals. Noah takes some and offers them to God. In verse 21, the Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and said in his heart, "Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. And never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done." Wait, read that again. God says, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. That has not changed. The flood did not fix human nature. People are still sinful, but God makes a promise anyway. Never again will he destroy the earth like this. Why? Not because humanity got better, but because of God's mercy and his greater plan. Then God makes this beautiful promise. As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease. The seasons will continue. The cycles of nature will go on. Life will go on. Stability, predictability. God is reestablishing order. Genesis 9, the covenant, the rainbow, and the family drama. Okay, so Noah and his family are out of the ark, back on dry land, and God is about to establish some new rules for this post-flood world. God blesses Noah and his sons and says, "Be fruitful and increase in number and fill the earth." Same command as Genesis 1. Humanity gets a do-over, but then God adds something new. The fear and dread of you will fall on all the beasts of the earth and on all the birds in the sky, on every creature that moves along the ground, and on all the fish in the sea. They are given into your hands. Before the flood, the relationship between humans and animals seemed more harmonious. Now, animals will fear humans. There is a fundamental shift in the created order. Then God gives permission for something that was not allowed before. Everything that lives and moves about will be food for you. Just as I gave you the green plants, I now give you everything. Humans can now eat meat. Before, in the Garden of Eden, the diet was plants. Now, post-flood, meat is on the menu. But there is one condition. But you must not eat meat that has its lifeblood still in it. Do not eat blood. The blood represents life, and life is sacred. This command will become central in later Jewish dietary laws. Then God gets serious about the value of human life. And for your lifeblood, I will surely demand an accounting. I will demand an accounting from every animal. And from each human being too, I will demand an accounting for the life of another human being. Whoever sheds human blood, by humans shall their blood be shed. For in the image of God has God made mankind. This is the foundation for justice and capital punishment. Murder is not just a crime against another person. It is an attack on the image of God himself. Human life is that sacred. Then God makes a covenant. I now establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature that was with you, the birds, the livestock, and all the wild animals, all those that came out of the ark with you, every living creature on earth. This covenant is not just with humans, it is with all creation, every animal, every bird, everything. And here is the promise. I establish my covenant with you. Never again will all life be destroyed by the waters of a flood. Never again will there be a flood to destroy the earth. Never again. No matter how wicked humanity becomes, God will not flood the earth again. Then God gives the sign of this covenant. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Whenever I bring clouds over the earth and the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you and all living creatures of every kind. Never again will the waters become a flood to destroy all life. The rainbow. Every time it rains and the sun breaks through and creates a rainbow, it is God reminding himself of his promise. It is not just for us to see, it is for God to see and remember his covenant. Some scholars think this might be the first rainbow ever, that the atmospheric conditions before the flood were different. Whether that is true or not, the rainbow now has covenantal meaning. Then the narrative shifts, and we get this detail. The sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. These were the 3 sons of Noah, and from them came the people who were scattered over the whole earth. Every human alive today descends from one of these 3 men. Every nation, every ethnicity, every people group traces back to Shem, Ham, or Japheth. Then we get to the incident that creates massive consequences. Noah, a man of the soil, proceeded to plant a vineyard. When he drank some of its wine, he became drunk and lay uncovered inside his tent. Noah plants a vineyard, makes wine, gets drunk, and ends up naked in his tent. This is the same righteous man who walked with God and built the ark. Nobody is perfect. Even the most faithful people can fall into sin. Then it gets messy. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father naked and told his 2 brothers outside. Ham sees his father naked, and instead of covering him with dignity and respect, he goes and tells his brothers about it. There is mockery implied here, a lack of honor. But Shem and Japheth respond differently. But Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it across their shoulders. Then they walked in backward and covered their father's naked body. Their faces were turned the other way so that they would not see their father naked. They walk in backward, keeping their eyes averted, and cover their father with respect and dignity. They honor him even in his shameful moment. When Noah wakes up and finds out what happened, he said, "Cursed be Canaan. The lowest of slaves will he be to his brothers." Wait, Canaan? Why is Noah cursing Ham's son instead of Ham himself? This is debated, but some possibilities. Number 1, Canaan might have been involved in the dishonor, and the text just mentions Ham as the father. Number 2, the consequences of sin fall on descendants. Ham's character will be passed down. Or number 3, this is prophetic. The Canaanites, Canaan's descendants, will later become incredibly wicked and will be dispossessed of their land by Israel, descendants of Shem. Then Noah blesses Shem and Japheth. Praise be to the Lord, the God of Shem. May Canaan be the slave of Shem. May God extend Japheth's territory. May Japheth live in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be the slave of Japheth. This is prophecy. The line of Shem will carry the covenant forward. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the Israelites, and eventually Jesus will all come from Shem's line. Japheth's descendants will spread far and wide. European nations largely come from Japheth. And Canaan's descendants, they will be subdued. The chapter ends. After the flood, Noah lived 350 years. Noah lived a total of 950 years, and then he died. 950 years. He lived through the entire pre-flood world, survived the flood, and saw the post-flood world established. Then he died. That is Genesis 9, a covenant of mercy, a symbol of hope in the rainbow, and a family situation that has consequences for generations. Genesis 10, how 3 men became every nation on earth. Okay, so Genesis 10 is essentially the family tree of humanity after the flood. It is called the Table of Nations, and it explains how Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, became the ancestors of every people group in the ancient world. This might seem like just a list of names, but it is actually showing us how God's command to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth gets fulfilled. These are real people who established real nations, many of which scholars have attempted to identify with later historical peoples. The chapter starts with Japheth's descendants, the sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. The text goes on to list their descendants and says, from these, the maritime peoples spread out into their territories by their clans within their nations, each with its own language. So Japheth's line spreads to the coastlands and islands, becoming seafaring peoples. His descendants generally settled in regions to the north and west. Then we get to Ham's descendants, and this section is longer and has more detail. The sons of Ham, Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. Ham's descendants settled primarily in Africa and parts of the Middle East. Egypt is literally Mizraim in Hebrew, which is the Hebrew name for Egypt. Then we get this fascinating detail about one specific descendant of Cush. Cush was the father of Nimrod, who became a mighty warrior on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. That is why it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. The first centers of his kingdom were Babylon, Uruk, Akkad, and Calneh. In Shinar, from that land, he went to Assyria, where he built Nineveh, Rehoboth-ir, Calah, and Rezin, which is between Nineveh and Calah, which is the great city, Nimrod. This guy gets his own paragraph because he is significant and unique in this genealogy. He is called a mighty warrior on the earth and a mighty hunter before the Lord. The phrase before the Lord means in God's sight or in God's presence. The text presents him as someone noteworthy enough that people made sayings about him. What we know from the text, Nimrod establishes the first kingdom mentioned after the flood. He is associated with Babylon in the land of Shinar and with building several major cities, including Nineveh. These are significant cities that appear throughout the rest of the Bible, often in opposition to God's people. Then the text lists the rest of Ham's descendants through Egypt, Put, and Canaan. The Canaanite peoples get special attention because they will occupy the land that God later promises to Abraham's descendants. The text specifically lists the Canaanite groups: Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Archites, Sinites, Arvadites, Zemarites, and Hamathites. Later, the Canaanite clans scattered, and the borders of Canaan reached from Sidon toward Gerar as far as Gaza, and then toward Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim, as far as Lasha. These geographical markers define the land of Canaan. Sodom and Gomorrah will appear again in Genesis as cities destroyed for their wickedness. Finally, we get to Shem's descendants, and this is the line that leads to Abraham. The text says, sons were also born to Shem, whose older brother was Japheth. Shem was the ancestor of all the sons of Aber. Some translations read this differently regarding who is older, but what matters is that Shem is identified as the ancestor of all the sons of Aber. This is significant because the word Hebrew comes from Aber. Shem's descendants include Elam, Asher, associated with Assyria, Arphaxad. This line leads directly to Abraham in Genesis 11. Lud, Aram, associated with the Arameans. Then we get to Eber's two sons. Two sons were born to Eber. One was named Peleg because in his time the earth was divided. His brother was named Joktan. The text does not explain exactly what the earth was divided means. It could refer to the division of peoples into nations and languages, possibly related to the events of Genesis 11 at Babel, or it could mean something else. The text simply notes it as significant. Peleg's line will continue to Abraham in Genesis 11. Joktan's descendants are listed as spreading throughout Arabia. The chapter ends with this summary. These are the clans of Noah's sons, according to their lines of descent within their nations. From these, the nations spread out over the earth after the flood. 3 men, 3 sons. Every nation on earth after the flood traces back to Shem, Ham, or Japheth, according to this account. Why does this chapter matter? It establishes that all of humanity shares common ancestry through Noah. Despite the diversity of nations, languages, and locations that develop, we all come from the same family. This sets up both the unity and the diversity of the human race as part of the biblical narrative.